Hey guys, I'm at the Brock Cemetery in Greenville, Ohio, and we're gonna visit the grave of Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley burst into the male-dominated profession of sharpshooting. She was an early pioneer woman in this, and she's buried next to Frank Butler, and we'll talk about him as well. So Annie, she was born to Quakers in rural Ohio. She was the fifth of 7 children. Her father died of pneumonia when Annie was just a little girl. And her and her siblings grew up incredibly poor. To support her family, she began hunting. And at the age of 7, she proved skilled enough to make a living selling her game at local shopkeeper restaurants and hotels. And word of the little girl with the really good sharpshooting skills began to spread across the region. In 1875, one of her customers at the hotel arranged a marksmanship competition between a 15-year-old Annie and Frank Butler, an Irish sharpshooter, who is right here. With the traveling Wild West show, to everyone's surprise, the girl won. Frank immediately began courting her, and a year later they were married, and Annie joined her husband, again Frank right there, in the Wild West show business. Their tour really capitalized on the cowboy life on the frontier, and they were a fixture of the 1880s entertainment. A lot like circuses, they just went from town to town. Annie and Frank, they joined the Buffalo Bill's Wild West tour, where she was not a very tall lady, only about 5 foot, made the second highest salary after Buffalo Bill himself. So she was very skilled, very popular. Her life quieted down after a train accident, but she never stopped shooting. She toured occasionally, and she always drew really big crowds. Rather than performing, she spent much more time raising causes for women's rights. It is estimated she taught some 15,000 women to shoot, and is quoted as saying, "I would like to see every woman know how to handle guns as naturally as they know how to handle babies." In 1926, Annie died of an edema, and Frank, distraught with grief, died only 18 days later. They had been married 50 years and were buried together here in the Brock Cemetery, about 20 miles north of Annie's birthplace. The couple left behind no children, and most of their estate was willed to charitable institutions. So I've been walking around here, but Annie's grave, obviously, with Frank. We'll start with Frank first. Like I said, he was skilled in his own right. That's something new I've not seen before on a grave. Bullets. That looks like a 22. That's about all I know. Looks like kind of a long one too. So Frank Butler grave, his and Annie's grave matches. I'll look at Annie's grave here. I suspect much more of the same. Yes, bullets, coins. We got the sign here so you can read the sign here. Phoebe Ann Mosey, also known as Annie Oakley, was born 6 miles northeast of here in what was then the Woodland, later named Willowdale. Born in 1860, she was the sixth daughter, born to Jacob and Susan Mosey. After the death of her father, she engaged in shooting wild game to feed the Mosey family. This child prodigy shooter shot match after match until she won a life-changing match in 1881 with champion shooter Frank Butler. In 1882, Phoebe and Ann married Butler in Windsor, Ontario. Read the back side here. She chose Annie Oakley as her professional name and went on to dazzle audiences in the Midwest with phenomenal accuracy. Sioux Chief Sitting Bull was so moved at seeing her amazing skills, named her Little Sure Shot after joining Buffalo Bill's Wild West in 1885. Annie became a star who thrilled audiences, including the royalty and nobility across England and Europe. Retiring from the Wild West in 1901, Annie shot mostly for fun and charity events, donating her funds to the orphanages and disadvantaged widows. In ill health for several months, Annie died in Greenville at the age of 66. These rocks. Well marked grave. There's a sign you saw when I probably walked in here. The Annie Oakley gravesite. So it's a small cemetery. It takes you don't have any trouble finding it. But there you go, guys. The grave of sharpshooter extraordinaire Annie Oakley and her husband Frank Butler.